BLG were able to pick up game number 1 over LGD, and although this is the Shanghai skyline, they're playing that live from the Hangzhou Arena, LGD's home stadium. And once again, a team has been able to take the first game off them here, Clement, and primarily it was through the acceleration that SKS got in the jungle for BLG.
Yeah, definitely. We look at the lanes, like this was a slow composition that needed time to ramp up. However, they were able to outpace the fast composition coming from LGD. And I think we really need a question for LGD is like, why didn't you guys try to fight more? That first dragon, when Eimy had a 40 CS lead over the opponent dragon, they should have tried to lock that down. Cassiopeia, who has a counter pick and was winning the lane against the Ryze, they really didn't do much with that. And with the pace being so fast, when the Baron push finally came in, you could see that the he only had actually had 0 armor items against a Caitlyn with 3 items, so that's why they kind of folded and just disappeared so fast, because their mentality was still like, okay, we're still playing the lanes, right? Oh no, they're actually knocking on our inhibitors, and it just kind of fell apart really fast.
Exactly that. They had the mid lane priority. Bottom lane was a favorite imp and PYL for most of the early game as well. It was only really top lane where we saw that Cho'Gath counter pick into the Ornn a little bit. On top of that, and in the bottom lane, I should say, Jinjiao was the man who picked up MVP for Bilibili Gaming.
40% of the team's damage, really no frontline coming out from LGD, so nobody really able to absorb those peacemakers and headshots. He had a very simple game actually, never touched in the team fights. All he had to do was play PvE and just straight push towers.
With that, they're able to pick up the first victory in this best of 3 series. Game number 2 is already underway, so we're going to bring up the picks and bans for that match as soon as we can before we get into that game. On BLG's side, it's going to be Xayah in the bottom lane with Braum, Kha'Zix in the jungle, Cho'Gath in the top lane, and they got the Zoe here, Clement, heading into the mid lane. Whereas for the side of LGD, we're going to have Ezreal as well as Rakan in the bottom lane, Ryze in the mid lane, Jarvan in the jungle, as Sion in the top lane.
Very interesting about the Athena Zoe. This is actually the second time he's picked up this champion. Previously, for the first 4 weeks, he didn't really touch on the Zoe. So this is a new change. They're actually going for something very aggressive. And that combination, remember, this is 8.2 Zoe, not 8.4 Zoe, where she's definitely gone. But this combination, if they get ahead, they can really snowball incredibly hard. And you can also see for LGD side, this is kind of interesting because they were apparently so afraid of the blue side Xayah that they took Rakan and Ezreal together, which is a
not a combo you see frequently.
No, not a very effective combo. That's definitely more of a takeaway. But we do have to remember, I feel like Ezreal has been Imp's best champion so far. He has been able to generate a couple of lane kills there, so he might see the matchup a bit differently than we do.
Very high priority on taking the Rakan away from that Xayah Rakan combo. Also high priority, as you mentioned, on taking the Ezreal instead of going for the Zoe, which could be thrown into the mid lane for LG instead. Now it's going to be picked up by Athena in the mid lane for Bilibili Gaming. Besides that, we also have Sion on top lane, which we've seen a little bit more of so far this week since we come back from the Chinese New Year break. Going to go up against the Cho'Gath once again from AmazingJ.
Again, I feel like LGD's composition, they don't really have a very strong core. It's kind of difficult to say, like, what are we supposed to really do? How are we going to get to our victory conditions? Sure, they have a lot of catch potential, but overall, I just feel like BLG has a more comprehensive plan. You just win the jungle, and then you have your frontline tanks. You can team fight in the late game as well, where I feel like the windows for a win condition on LGD side are much more narrow.
But with LGD picking up the Rakan away from the Xayah as well as locking in Ryze after Zoe was let through from the side, seems like they know what they're doing coming into picks and bans for game number 2. But with Zoe, potentially BLG could put them to sleep really, really early in game number 2. Let's send it over to our casters to see if that's going to happen.
Game number 2 is upon us. LGD versus BLG. After a very swift performance from BLG in game number 1, LGD now find themselves on the back foot in their home stadium in front of their own fans. Now they have to turn it around against a team that I think surprised them completely in that game 1.
Yeah, and it's definitely a crossroads and a very important match for LGD. It's not just the fact that they're losing against BLG, you know, 3rd versus 5th. You can kind of understand that when you look at the standings, but it's the fact that, you know, how much hope do LGD fans have left at this point? If you actually look at their pickups, yes, they've taken games off the likes of Invictus Gaming, so some of these higher up teams, but they haven't really beaten anyone of any sort of worth or notoriety right now. This would kind of be their big first accomplishment to stamp onto the resume, like, okay, yes, LGD are back, and so far I haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, the big hope is that they can actually show us. We're actually ready to get into game for this game number 2 between LGD and BLG. Can they prove in front of their own fans, in front of the home crowd, they have got what it takes to compete? Or will BLG, the miracle makers, show us that they've got something new in this 2018 year as well?
Normally we wait for the other team's
Yes.
cheers, but it looks like...
Not many BLG...
Oh!
There they go.
Get that guy next to the mic.
Yeah, exactly. Not many BLG fans in the stadium, but certainly representing. You can see LGD Jinoo smiling a little bit, perhaps as he makes his way onto the stage. And it's good to see the faces of LGD members showing some emotional resilience here in this game, too.
And that's the thing. LGD have always been a team because they've been the same core members for so long now. The PYL, the Imp, the Eimy, and now even Jinoo really joining that ranks of kind of the veteranship squad. They're a team that when you smile at them, they'll smile back at you. If you decide that you want a 5v5 ARAM for 15 minutes, LGD are one of the teams that they'll, okay, this is fun, we'll do it.
If you have looked into the darkness long enough, the darkness looks back at you. Oh, man.
Good-natured guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Always have a grin on their face.
LGD are Riku. We've figured it out. All right, 2 minutes in. Here's how this is going to go down. We've got Zoe in the mid lane for Athena. This is something we talked a little bit about earlier on. This is something that was rather unexpected for him, almost contrary to his traditional playstyle, but he has shown huge mastery over the champion. And that was actually second pick for BLG. They priority picked the Xayah, then took Zoe second, which allowed Yuuki to get the counter pick with Ryze.
And Zoe has disappeared a little bit in terms of the LPL's priority onto it. A lot of the times it has slipped through, much to a lot of the analysts' dismay of, oh, what happened here? I guess Zoe was just let through for no reason. But yeah, it has been one of the more punishing and proactive champions for Athena. We used to call him the sleeping princess, because he just kind of is asleep in the mid lane. But he has definitely woken up for 2018. And Athena has been a big reason why BLG are sitting so high up in their standings. And when a champion like Zoe, he can cause a lot of damage, especially if the snowball takes off. Just the nature of her kit, her ability to have such long-range nuke potential and long-range control over corridors with that sleepy trouble bubble, just means she's devastating when you're snowballed ahead and you have the moving vision.
Now take a look at the changeup that we're seeing from LGD, perhaps to try to preempt that. Eimy with a very early roam top lane immediately dives the turret. And AmazingJ with a very early panic flash. That's still a lot of minions coming in.
Yeah, and no one is coming to his rescue. SKS is across the map on Gromp. This is going to be a dive. No flash on Cho.
All right, that's the damage. Eimy manages to proc it. Jinoo tanks it. He's knocked up. He's going to have to get away from this. Flashes out, but first blood LGD.
Well executed there from Eimy and Jinoo, and great job on the patience, recognizing that SKS was not going to come help him. So great read for a very early tower dive, recognizing that Kha'Zix would be across map.
And now that puts a very, very happy Eimy onto the map with the likes of this Jarvan, much more able to interact with the top and bottom lanes and gank them as best he can. Though perhaps he might take a quick run through the mid lane.
He needs to be much more careful, though, because Kha'Zix is now around mid lane. He doesn't know this, but he should be aware that Kha'Zix has moved from the other side of the map.
Now he's showing up behind Athena, who's got Flash and Cleanse very early on.
Yeah, it basically means that without information about where SKS is, that Eimy and Yuuki aren't going to hard commit for this one. You know, there's not going to be any sort of flash trade for flash trade, because there is that opportunity that it's not a 2v1, that it could turn into a 2v2.
Much more dangerous scenario here. You can see some of our stats for SKS, fairly close to the middle. High first blood rate. Again, that ward is fairly close to the pack. Jungling percentage, 5th place.
It's interesting that he would have such a high first blood rate, 4th right now out of all of the junglers in the LPL. And again, BLG have the 2nd slowest average game time. If you're getting first blood that often, normally you tend to,
propel the momentum.
Exactly, snowball things out of control, but it really just hasn't been BLG's style. They are very isolated, and then, once the towers fall down, usually because they're taken, because if you look at their gold difference at 10, 15, and 20 minutes, they almost never have a gold lead. At game end, the most of a gold lead that they'll have is 300 gold.
generally not a great place to be, but still, there are opportunities for them to try to break it open. Jinoo, with no flash and very far pushed, finds himself subject to a gank by SKS. Question is, who does the kill gold go to? Looks like that's going to be SKS as Eimy actually shows up to try to follow with a catch onto SKS. Good damage, but Rupture prevents Jinoo's zombie form from collapsing.
Do you need to be careful? Yuuki's also hanging around, placing a ward. I think he was trying to be a little bit cute with the Ryze and stand in the jungle, wait for SKS to walk back into the jungle, but decides that he doesn't want to miss the big creep wave in the mid lane.
Those juicy, juicy minions, so very important. But now it's 1-to-1. We're seeing a push and pull in this early game. And like we said with BLG, they like to sit back in their laning phase, drag it on as long as they can, and take it nice and slow without propelling a mid game. Well, perhaps they could be trying to emulate the same style they played in game 1.
They do seem to be moving a little bit faster, being a bit more proactive. The best part about this for both teams is the fact that the junglers got the kills. So while they have made good on their promise to gank the top laners when they're actually, you know, gankable before they get those big, beefy tank stats and just become these, you know, unmovable walls, you've got now Kha'Zix and Jarvan with a bit of a lead. That was some sick damage.
Yeah, the classic level 6 Athena. Quick portal jump, paddle star.
And it's just
onto Yuuki.
It's so frustrating to me that so everyone always talks about the trouble bubble and the nuke damage and you know, getting free items. No. What kills me about Zoe is the fact that she just gets to clear the back creep waves for free at like level 5. Like, how absurd is that pushing priority?
We've taken it away from Victor, Ziggs, so many champions, and then Zoe comes in and says, "Not only can I do that, but I also have massive pick potential." So strong. Can't wait for 8.3. We get that 0.25 seconds.
While we do have the top laner stats on our screen, I really want to quickly touch AJ's top lane stats, because this is why I'm so shocked to see Cho'Gath, and actually why I'm so happy to see it. He just hasn't been a tank player. 27% of his team's damage. There are only 2 top laners that do more damage share than him for their teams, and it's Flandre and Sion.
That's unsurprising, actually, when you say those 2 names. But still, you would never look at AJ and say, oh, this guy just wants to play Maokai and sit back and do nothing. Always taking an active role in the team. The more active the champion, the better it seems to fit for him.
No, but AJ does have a very small, effective champion pool. He has been so overly reliant on Camille, Vladimir, and Gangplank. Ornn has kind of been his one tank that he will reach for. Perhaps that's why LGD prioritized it in game number 1 to take it away from AJ, which is why the Cho'Gath pick is such a big deal for him. Because he doesn't play Gnar. He's played it once. He did win on the game, but there have been multiple opportunities where BLG have had the opportunity to take the Gnar, and they just cannot touch it. They just don't play it very well. So he needed something else in his repertoire, and it looks like he got the Cho'Gath.
Seems to be a comfort champion for him. As SKS looks to finish off the dragon, luckily the isolated target allowing for plenty of bonus damage, some assistance from Athena, and coming down with a quick paddle star, not to mention the push in the lane, and the bottom lane control from Jinjiao and Road. Of course, that BF sword allowing for some very efficient clear, but Eimy is thinking of making something happen, knowing that SKS was on the other side of the map and Yuuki was there with the Realm Warp.
I think AJ is pretty aware of what's happening just because Yuuki also disappeared from the mid lane.
Ooh, that's the knockup and Realm Warp. Flash is still ready for AmazingJ. That's another flash followed up and the Cataclysm. They're going 2 turrets deep. Amy with the stopwatch. Yuuki tries to get in and will succeed finding the kill, but with a stopwatch of his own, he's got to get out of there. The body block from the Sion trying to redirect the paddle star. Another flash picked up. He's got another one stored in his pocket. Dodges the knockup from Jinoo. Wants the kill, but cannot catch Yuuki.
Another successful dive from LGD. Unfortunately, though, they're not trading ahead in these objectives. They see the Infernal Drake go down, so they know that they have an opportunity to make another play top. And speaking of plays top,
SKS looks for some damage onto Jinoo. He's holding on to the flash, but ducks into the brush, misses the knockup, eats a paddle star. Stopwatch for style points, I would suppose. The slowest, saddest giant top lane. Wow, is he actually going to get out of this?
Teleport
Battlestar is ready.
behind.
Flash is ready as well, and the teleport. Jinoo is allowed to walk away.
Okay, so the idea from BLG there, of course they were trying to give the kill to Athena. Which is why SKS walked away. Hold on, though.
Flash engage into the bottom lane. He's in, he's out. That's going to be another follow-up as Eimy gets knocked up mid-dash.
Everyone calm down.
Okay, this game has got no chill. LGD, They're taking a very active role in this game compared to the previous one.
But the fact of the matter is they're still not trading even with BLG. It's still not worth an Infernal Drake, no matter how much gold and assist gold you put on top of the Xayah. Now, again, the good thing is that the kills did go to Jarvan and Ryze, and as I say that, we're ganking bottom again.
Yeah.
Turn around.
Slowed by the concussive blows. Winter's Bite prevents J4 from getting in.
There was the fact that Yuuki was also looking for the deep reach around.
Trying to get into the bottom lane. Okay, 10.5 minutes in, and LGD have come to life. They are looking for the opportunities significantly more than in the previous game, just not quite able to find them, though BLG are much more on their toes here.
Yeah, it's about finding the right opportunities. Now, they do have a lot of opportunity for the bot lane just because Imp's itemization, you know, going for the early sheen, and plus the fact that BLG have just been hard winning bot lane through the push. So, Xayah and Braum were constantly overextended. It's why LGD wanted to play down there. Unfortunately, now that the tower has been broken, they lose a lot of that opportunity.
And now this means that Imp has got to be a little bit more careful farming down there. You can see he's down about 16 CS as LGD invade into the jungle to get some forward vision around that dragon. Except there is no dragon, and there won't be for another few minutes.
I mean, really, the story for LGD at this point is kind of like too little too late.
Yeah.
Yes, they got successful ganks off top, gold for Ryze and Jarvan, but it really hasn't translated into anything. Right now, Imp is trying to push bottom as hard as possible just so he can get Jinjiao and Road to respond to the wave. He doesn't want to hold the wave ever because Xayah and Braum will just
walk away, go somewhere else.
Exactly, piss off somewhere else.
And that is a very dangerous combination that can roam around. Eimy with the dive has to flash away, doesn't want to eat the trouble bubble. Luckily, it's the Ryze who eats it for him. PYL follows up, and Yuuki locks down another kill, but SKS, he was thinking about it.
And I'm glad that we got to see PYL involved with the fight. I do agree with what Clement was saying. You know, usually you don't see the combination of Ezreal and Rakan. It really doesn't make a lot of sense. There's a reason why their tower was the first to fall, and they just pretty much got obliterated in the bot lane. You could see that the CS discrepancy between the AD carries. But PYL is a really good engage player. He's a very good Rakan player. So it was that instance of a player just feels confident, they want to make plays, they want to be proactive in the game, and Rakan's the perfect champion for that.
Yuuki with no mana has to flash away, knocked up, stun locked, and executed. No vision. Look at them. Danger. We don't have any wards up here. I've pinged like that to people. Everybody has a moment where it's like, yeah, should have backed.
Yeah, I didn't have mana. Took me forever to try to clear those creeps.
Yeah. But this is BLG. I mean, they're still finding these openings. They're still looking for these openings and just finding windows that LGD aren't expecting, or at least respecting.
Yeah, it's the counterplays, though. It's the fact that BLG still aren't showing the same proactive play that we saw in game number 1. They kind of just won their lanes, and now we'll see what they do next. I'm excited about BLG and their new champions, but I need to see kind of the next step of this evolution before I'm really aboard, like, okay, BLG are a top team in the LPL.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, it is the checkpoint for these two teams, the stepping stone, if they can advance towards the upper echelon of play.
But you can already see that BLG are starting to take the next step in terms of this game. You know, they've now unlocked Road and Jinjiao. Imp is trying his damnedest to try to keep that lane pushed, but since he doesn't have his Iceborne Gauntlet complete, he doesn't have the AoE creep shred. Yeah. And so it just allows Braum and Xayah to take whatever they want. It looks like it's going to be top tower and Rift Turtle.
With that wave pushed in and the faster rotation from BLG, as you said, that's priority over the Herald. Jinoo actually swarms down with his team to try to get in, but he's going to be caught by another silence from Athena. PYL shows up as well as they spot the Herald going Rupture onto Sion. Tanky though he is, he's not able to do anything. A great knockup from PYL only stalls time for Jinoo to return to the graveyards. BLG are just taking the initiative.
And unfortunately, that's a big initiation ultimate. You know, LGD, they have the right idea. They can try to contest for that Herald in terms of their itemization and, you know, the fact that they had people grouped up, that they do have that front line like Sion. But Imp wasn't in position.
Oh, he's actually grouped up in the mid lane, and Athena takes some huge damage right as he gets into lane. Arcane Shift gets Imp back, and LGD with an out of the blue siege on the mid lane tier 1 turret is stymied, though they do chip it down to half and might well lose their top.
It's desperation. At this point, LGD are like, okay, do we sit now into the mid lane and just try to force the mid lane tower to fall, or maybe even get a pick around it? or do we move over to the Ocean Drake and just take table scraps?
They're still trying. LGD are very aggressive right now. This is the wild card play that could give them an opening back into the game if BLG fall prey to it. But look at that. They've placed a ward, they fall back, give up the red buff. All right, you know what? It's an Ocean Dragon. We don't have to worry about it. And they just retreat. Jinjiao continues to push top, and though Jinoo can clear the wave, eventually that turret's going to fall.
But LGD's push is about to run out of steam. So I like the fact that, okay, we're probably not going to get the mid lane tower. We can at least get the Ocean Dragon. Red buff, Ocean Drake, not terrible for LGD, but still not trading even with BLG, as that top tower will eventually fall. Now that Athena is also in position for the mid lane to staunch any sort of mid lane push from LGD.
Now we've got the recalls being completed. Yuuki doesn't quite have his teleport. Getting very close to it, though, so there is a brief window of opportunity for the likes of BLG if they wanted to try something. And take a look at this. Road sneaking up top.
I'd also like to see SKS swing up there. I think they need 3 people, especially because PYL is responding to the pressure that BLG are putting top.
Yeah, and there's SKS, almost exactly as you mentioned. Road and SKS are really working as a terrifying tandem duo in this, as now they're finally able to break down the turret.
And the best thing is how Road and SKS are reining in a lot of that aggression. You know, yes, they've always been kind of the terror twins.
The Bash Bros.
Yeah, but they go a little bit too deep sometimes.
Yeah.
And against a team like LGD, who love to skirmish, who love these little hit and runs, that can be really punishing. But Road and SKS playing a very clean series so far. You know, SKS got ahead in game number 1, really played the defensive vision line for his team and allowed his lanes to break naturally. Is also now 3-0 in this game, and you know, isn't that overreaching Kha'Zix, is playing towards his lanes.
Perhaps looking to redeem himself after his performance against Flawless a while ago. I feel like everyone is still trying to redeem themselves for their performance against Flawless. Nobody can really keep up with the guy right now, but BLG are certainly making a case for themselves, especially with the likes of SKS. And LGD, they're still looking for these plays. They're actually taking a quick incursion into the jungle of BLG here.
Yeah, it's cute. They're looking for a trap. They know that the Rift Herald is going to be used in the mid lane, and so they were trying to find Road placing vision to see if they could get a very quick pick.
They still might be looking as they're getting huge damage. He flashes back. Even the Sion, Railroad again, but they're trying to get him out of here. The knock-up, he's denied the Realm Warp as Yuuki follows through. They turn their attention to Jinjiao as they've managed to finally kill the support. But through the chaos, LGD managed to find one. AmazingJ on the side, eats a knock-up as slowly but surely BLG are filtering into this. LGD quickly repositioned to trade 1-for-1, but it's going to end up being a 2-for-1 overall.
But the big thing is it's going to delay the Rift Herald. Look at the timer. It's about actually to expire.
Oh, they managed to get the snare onto Jinjiao. He gets burst 3-for-1. LGD thriving in the chaos, pull it off, but take a look up top. The Rift Herald has been summoned.
Which means that it isn't going to break the tower. So great play from LGD. They get behind BLG. They know that BLG want to use this into the mid lane. They find a pick. They push down the members, deny any sort of Rift Herald play, and then turn tempo back and may actually seed mid.
This isn't the polished marble excellent play that we were expecting of LGD. This is the cracked and crazy facade that you get splinters just from touching. But still, it manages to work. LGD are pulling through and defending their turret, but now BLG are back on the map, and the momentum is about to swing the other way.
It's like, it's not NASCAR. What's the one that's on the dirt track where it's like the
Derby?
Yeah. Everyone's just ramming it. That's what LGD are, and it's great. Okay, so again, the trap is they knew Road was going to look for the flanking vision because they knew that BLG wanted to play around the mid lane Rift Herald play. So PYL, Captain Shot Caller, sets up the pick. Now he's looking for another one.
For another, yeah. They're targeting Road again. Impacts to Arcane Shift out of the Realm Warp because he can't go that far. And they still manage to find the kill. LGD are picking these kills up. They're getting themselves back onto the map, but side wave control still belongs to BLG. Baron's up in 30 seconds. We've got to start wondering, eventually BLG have got to stabilize this.
They need to group up, and they need to stop, you know, like, putting one toe out of position.
Yes.
The issue is that they're just far enough apart that Rakan is able to punish so easily with his long-range engage potential and pick potential. So I think BLG will learn their lesson, kind of tighten up their flanks a little bit and start moving more as a cohesive unit, especially because they do have that side lane control. So there's no need for them to be split up and juggling the rest of the map right now. They need to just kind of calm down, reset themselves, and do what BLG does best, which is group up.
Yeah, it's so fascinating seeing how these teams are actually getting kills and playing around each other, because it clearly shows how well they know each other's playstyle. PYL at some point is going to go on a wild warding mission and overextend. We just have to kill him. Road at some point is going to get very aggressive. We just have to find him and punish him, which is exactly what they do. PYL starts the engage, and Eimy follows through. Jinoo is there along with them, and LGD find another kill onto Road. Jinjiao in the air in the Cataclysm gets demolished by Yuuki, and LGD playing on BLG's faults.
BLG just got T-boned from Jinoo right there. He just came in sideways.
From the side.
And now finally, yes, Athena is alive and Zoe is there, but Ryze and Eimy are doing such a wonderful job zoning away Cho'Gath and Zoe that LG will finally break down this mid tower. So it took 3 different plays, 2 different catches, but we did it. We broke it down.
I think that was the 4th siege overall, but you're correct. 1 turret to 2, and LGD have actually got themselves a gold lead. Here it goes again, Proto Belt, and immediately PYL says, "You want a piece of this?"
You can have the whole damn thing. And there's the T-bone right there. And unfortunately, it's always Road.
Yeah.
He always has to pay the price for BLG. The issue is where's AJ? If you look at your map, Cho'Gath is walking up the river, so it's using Sion's mobility against Cho'Gath himself. You know, he doesn't have time to TP into the fights when Sion's literally flying out of the bush, like already in the fight. AJ's like, well, guess I might as well walk.
Yeah, a little bit more difficult to interrupt the Sion charge as compared to a teleport when you're the likes of Cho'Gath. But now Yuuki, a lot of presence in this bottom lane. He's pushing up to the tier 1, nearly has it broken down, and is keeping AJ, occupied. Up top, Jinoo still holding on to his own charge to look for something mid. But 1-3-1 for the 2. Perhaps we could see BLG back on the map now that they've got the chance to recuperate.
But it feels like LGD are still driving the tempo, and kind of the play set pattern for them is Ryze and Sion shove waves into the side lane, and then they use either the Realm Warp or the Sion ultimate to then quickly outposition BLG and start a fight in the mid lane. That's kind of been the wash, rinse, and repeat for the last 3 plays.
Well, this play is going to be a lot more standard. Bottom tier 1 taken. Looks like that will be another Infernal spawning afterwards, as LGD now find themselves with their 2nd dragon in a row. And as we get towards this 23-minute mark, wards on top of wards all around the Baron. BLG are playing the smart macro game. We want to play around the Baron and play the side lanes and play the smart map, and LGD are saying, who can we kill next?
But LGD also don't have to look for the picks if they don't want to. Because Yuuki is so big now, 4, 1, and 3, there's no one who can really stop him. You'd have to send multiple members to deal with the Ryze. And so quietly, LGD have gained this ability to play a 1-4 or a 1-3-1 if they also want to throw the Sion onto the side lane. So as far as BLG's, heavy vision around the Baron buff, they still need to stay relatively grouped up and kind of protect a lot of their members, whereas LGD have so much more flexibility about how they want to play this map and how they want to set up their plays.
Ooh, we saw an attempted engage out of BLG there, but they can't quite catch up to PYL, who's still skirting with danger, Ghost activated, but within range of an engage.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. If you have Sion and Ryze out to the side lanes, like you see the formation right now from LGD, you then have the safety of Rakan and Ezreal as your 2-man unit pushing the mid lane. And now that Easy has the Iceborne Gauntlet complete, he can actually compete with the wave clear from Xayah.
Did you just call him Easy?
Yeah. Easy E?
Easy E?
Easy E.
Easy E. Well, hopefully that'll help him do a lot better. I love the build change-up that he had to go through, though. Finishing off the Muramana and the Iceborne Gauntlet immediately. Quicksilver Sash because of that one champion. That Zoe back available. You cannot cleanse the drowsy. You still fall asleep afterwards. That's a tip for everyone back at home. There have been so many times that I have been caught by that. I'm sure Imp is well-versed in being able to get out of this, but I think that's something that we have to take a look at in this game, because Athena, he had a great performance on that Zoe in the past, but now he's down 35, nearly 40 CS. He's not quite finding the picks that can enable BLG to reclaim that easy map control.
He doesn't necessarily need to find the picks at this point from Zoe. You know, the difference between Zoe and other assassins is that she doesn't need 100-0 kill pressure to still be effective, because her crowd control is still so capable, especially when we're playing around all these choke points, as both teams want to set up the Baron.
Now we see LGD stepping into the jungle of Bilibili to clear out some of their wards, try to contest this blue buff. And BLG happily back up. They know they've still got their tier 2s to fall back on and seed that vision around the map, but now that means that Baron is dark and dangerous, and BLG have to go out on a bit of an expedition.
Unfortunately, they don't have a lot of hard CC that even if they do find LG out of position, it's pretty much Yahtzee for them. They have to just kind of throw out their CC, it tags Imp, and see what they catch. And if they don't catch anything good, or if it completely resets like that, then LGD just get to continue to control the tempo of the game, because they just get to wait for their side lanes to collapse.
That's the QSS that we just saw from Imp to escape that sleepy trouble bubble interaction as PYL pulls the trigger. Eimy on the side, and guess who it is, FLICKR, and Road stepping forward, flashes back, but a Cataclysm from Eimy gets him in. Yuuki sends the Realm Warp behind Jinjiao, who leaps to the sky, flashes, but cannot get away from the knockup of this Sion. Finally, he will retreat as BLG are just falling further and further behind. Now 4,500 gold. And LGD have got their eyes on the purple worm.
And still, the trigger was that AJ wasn't with the team. Cho'Gath has now walked from bottom all the way to participate in the fight. Doesn't have the TP, but does have the feast available.
That's going to be the blue trinket spotting out the Baron. LGD trying to burn through its health. Like you said, that feast is ready. Yuuki flash there onto SKS, who flashes to escape himself. But a lot of cooldowns have been blown, and Yuuki at low health has got to respect this. They try to turn and burn on AJ, but Eimy has to flash out. Imp goes in and eats a knock-up. Baron saving BLG with the CC. They find 2 kills, killing the bottom lane, and chasing forward for Jinoo. 3 kills, BLG.
And as soon as Yuuki burned the flash, BLG knew that they had gotten on top of the Baron. They knew that they were at LGD's head, and now they immediately turned towards it. Now, Sion not up for 36 seconds. PYL and Imp down for 20. So the only way that stops this is Eimy flag and drag Smite to the pit, which is why Road is on the backside.
That's one auto. He drops the flag, tries to sidestep out, but a sleepy trouble bubble connects. Baron is finished off, and Road we'll pass that over to Athena. 10 kills to 8, but now the gold is much closer, and BLG again have picked up the Baron.
But a huge swing of tempo as we take another look at that fight. AJ really is the hero here, but Yuuki is the guy who gets caught out. He goes for the flash, he tries to burn Athena. Unfortunately, he isn't able to find it and is then massively chunked out. Ryze is completely out of the fight, and AJ just walks up to 3 members of LGD. Imp then unfortunately misplays.
Yeah.
They're all taking damage from the Baron, and then they just get destroyed by the Cho'Gath.
Huge damage. That Rupture catching 3 people. I thought it was the Baron, because there's no way LGD would be so unlucky to stack all 3 onto the Rupture. Well, it turns out that it was, in fact, that case. And now, Baron, like we said, on just about everyone for BLG. They're grouping up around the Infernal Dragon. Don't want to take any chances with the late game Elder.
And that's the other scary thing. It's the fact that they got the Baron, which means they'll now have wave priority and control over a double Infernal. Like, how much luckier could BLG get?
It's a lot of hurt. AmazingJ chases forward. Beast is ready, but Athena locks it down. Eimy tries to defend as Yuuki steps forward. Even the train comes charging in, but LGD are looking like lambs to the slaughter right now. Road protecting AmazingJ as Yuuki will die to the backline of BLG. But this is just not a push and pull that LGD can take.
It's also not a play that BLG should be wanting to make right now. They actually need to disengage.
Ooh, that's almost the one shot.
Oh, greed.
They managed to spot him with the blue trinket. Athena is thinking about going for the chase as Imp tries to heal up off of the red buff. Jinoo, tagged by a slow, has to retreat from the tier 2 as there is no sanctity, no safety from BLG.
So Imp showed up into the top lane. BLG finally got the go button that they could look to dive that tower. It was a bit extreme for a minute there. I was like, just take the Infernal, just double Infernal at 30 minutes is going to be real good for your comp.
But still, they managed to take the the two mid turrets. They managed to pick up the Infernal, and now that's a 3,000 gold lead over BLG.
Yeah, so naturally, double
LGD.
Infernal, 3k gold leads now swung back in favor of BLG. But the big thing is with the Baron buff and with now all of this new gold, they can side lane appropriately now. A big issue is that LGD's composition were running them around the map because they had priority in the side lanes with the Ryze and the Sion. That is not the case anymore. And BLG's comp, which was, struggling behind LG, trying to stay within touching distance, has now fully grabbed them and has put them in a sleeper hold.
Will LGD be able to escape this sleeper hold, or will BLG say night-night to LGD and claim dominance over this team? The Sleeping Dragon going back to sleep as SKS sneaking his way through, finds PYL, Guardian Angel, along with a Black Cleaver for some big burst. But LGD are trying to defend their top tier 2, and BLG, they've got teleport on AmazingJ, but they're going to use him as the leading force, the charging member, to escort these minions all the way up.
Unfortunately, they don't have a cannon wave, so they need to be a bit patient here. And as I say that, they're like, nah, dive the tower.
Absolutely not. They step forward, managing to get so many Sleepy Trouble bubbles. The knockup. PYL goes in, knockup onto 3. True Shot Barrage is still denied. There's so much, and the Realm Warp from Yuuki. Not offensive, but defensive. Keeps LGD's health bars in the green.
And LGD almost made the same mistake from game number 1 where they overcommit to a Baron fight, but now they're full health and here they come.
They're going right in. Eimy is the first to fall, though. The Cataclysm prevents Jinoo from getting in, and Yuuki has got to retreat. Jinoo caught by the slow from Road. Rupture locks him down, and BLG just piece and parcel tearing LGD to bits.
Jinjiao just annihilated LGD. They basically ran face first into a brick wall.
That was real painful. Even the True Shot Barrage was ready, and Road, despite the knockup, raises the Unbreakable.
I don't think they realized how much damage they were just about to walk into, because they literally hit that wall and their teeth flew out.
Oh, that's a very apt description, I should say, because LGD are looking like their teeth are lacking in this game. There's no sharp biting back now that the muscle has been put on them by BLG.
Good news is that it was the top inhib as opposed to the bottom inhib, so I guess silver lining.
They can still play around that top half of the map. Bad news is that Elder Dragon is up next. Still a few minutes, though, so we have a 3-minute window that LGD can sort of play around and try to defend. All right, 6,000 gold, 5.5 for those of you who are counting the numbers closely, but huge item advantages.
The double Aegis from PYL, kind of interesting.
He's always the innovative one. Sometimes with his passing, sometimes with his item builds. But he's just looking to
he wants the
get some big damage. Yeah. But now the next tier 2 is under siege. No more Baron and BLG. They just group up as 5. This is exactly what we predicted in the early game for the style of BLG and how they like to play.
And this is one mistake from LG from losing the game again. You just have to kind of minimize your losses here. Unfortunately, that Zoe, which was pretty much a non-factor for majority of the game, is now 5-1-6 and just dismantling LGD.
Yeah, Yuuki has to back away. Big engage from PYL, but where's the follow-up? Yuuki is in the fountain healing. Imp is firing on the side, but he can't get through Road. Jinoo dies in the meanwhile, along with his turret. And though it was the right idea, it just was not enough. BLG dogpile forwards, and this massive damage from BLG tear them apart. Guardian Angel procs on SKS, but it's not going to do him any good if he gets, even if he drops here. True Shot Barrage to try to finish it off, but BLG, now they're just playing with their food.
And it's a hyper bloody game. 17 kills. This is a completely different BLG. They have been reinvigorated. They are known as one of the hardest working teams in the LPL, and it is very clear that they were very hard at work over Chinese New Year.
Yeah, they did not take any breaks, and they're not going to take any breaks here with LGD. The Nexus turret's full, and the Nexus itself, the red crystal, shatters as BLG take the series 2-0.
Very bloody BLG. New picks, new style, and kind of a new wave of life. Yes, they're sitting 3rd in their conference, but a lot of people were looking at, OMG possibly climbing back with their recent surge. BLG never really get mentioned in the conversation, but today they dominated Hangzhou.
They certainly did. And perhaps those fans in Hangzhou might have to have a think about their cheer once again, because they should have a lot more pride in this team that suddenly shows up 6-3. They have a 66% win rate in the LPL right now, which is nigh unheard of for a team like BLG, coming from their history as the sister organization of EDG, making the miracle run to Worlds, but never quite able to compete, going toe-to-toe with these top-tier teams. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the tables might just be turning.
Yeah, now sitting 6-3 in their respective region. That puts them much farther ahead over teams like Team WE, teams like OMG, you know, these big-name organizations. And suddenly, the Western Conference is kind of on its head. You've got Snake in first place, you have EDG right there, and then you have Bilibili Gaming.
Yeah, right behind them. LGD looking perhaps a bit shaken after that game. We did see some signs of life returning to them in that in that game number 2. But they just couldn't quite close it out. Big smiles.
But that's all you see from LGD. It's these flashes of brilliance. It's, you know, when they take a game off Snake Esports or when they take a game off of Invictus Gaming, it's that flash in the pan, but never the whole series. This was a crossroads for both these teams, and unfortunately, LGD are once again on a downward trajectory while BLG continue to climb and defy expectations. They looked figured out in week 3 when they ran into sister team EDG, but since then, they've got some new tricks, some new plays.
They certainly do. I think you said it best, and at the end of the game, BLG was not lax during the break. They came in with some new stuff. Athena returning to that Zoe with huge damage. He was lollipopping the end of those skill shots to catch 3 people with the hits. I could barely hit 1, and Athena's showing us how to hit 3.
Came alive during the end of that game. And there was a lot of criticism, you know, last year. Why keep Athena when he had continued to kind of slump, really plateau? They were experimenting with Flawless. They couldn't run Flawless because they had the 2 Koreans in Road and Athena. And Athena waking up, look at that damage done. Yes, it's on the Zoe, but showcasing that you just can't give these weapons away to BLG, that they do have the confidence and the skill to play them.
Showing that they had a game plan in game 1 with patience and relying on Jinjiao, playing that calm sort of style, relying on SKS to set up for that huge mid-game leap that they decided to take. And then in game number 2, they sort of played a similar style, just a little bit more aggressive and forward, but then they sort of fell prey to the chaos of LGD and swung it back first opportunity they got.
It's the fact that we have 2 different games where they play a snowball style and they play from behind. And that's all you want to see from a team as an analyst. You're like, okay, yeah, you can snowball, but what happens if you fall behind? Are you smart enough to understand how to play defensively and to turn tempo? And BLG proved today that they are.
Yeah, well, they certainly are. Now our analyst desk is ready to break down that series. Gentlemen, it's all yours.
Guys, thank you guys. That's about 5 in there before that microphone came on. Thank you guys for that. It's another case of slow and steady wins the race though, Clement. Once again, BLG were able to sit back, relax, and let the scrappiness of LGD falter, let them tire out a little bit, and then they picked up the win at the end of the game.
Yeah, but it's not even just BLG's like going slow and steady. It's really about like LGD putting themselves in a hole at the start of the game with their ban picks. We talked about how weird a Rakan and Ezreal lane really was, and you have to remember they took this on the first rotation on the red side with things like Zoe up, with things like Tom Kench up. They took that Rakan and Ezreal lane, and then they lost their towers before 10 minutes. And there's just a big question, like, why are you tunneling so hard on the catch? You need to check more boxes with your ban picks. You can't just say, hey, if we have all this engaged, then all our problems are solved because we play this scrappy style. They really need to think more about what they want to do. Like the more traditional answer here would actually be to take the Kog'Maw. You outrange the Xayah, and that takes away so much of her power in terms of the 5v5 because she really punishes teams that go into her, not so much teams that outrange her. So just really weird things going on at the start of the game, and then the mentality is kind of like, we're going to make catches and snowball the game while we lose our first tower and sit on double tier users, which is just, I don't think it works that well. And props to BLG. I think if you look at how BLG handled LGD's aggression, they were very willing to give up Road's life. If Road died, they were like, okay, you know what? We're just going to stand back and defend our turrets. It's going to be fine. We know that we can give up these losses. We have the better 5v5 late game. And if you look at the trends between both of these games, they always had the better front-to-back team fight.
And because we saw that play coming up from LGD from the very start, diving in the top lane to make sure they got their first blood onto the Cho'Gath, making sure they kept up in tempo and constantly being aggressive. But when it came to those picks, as you mentioned, they were able to get a pick, but nothing else. That was it. We saw the pick on towards Rogue, LGD moved towards Baron. Hey, we don't have enough damage to do Baron anymore, so we're going to lose a 4-on-5 team fight.
Yeah, and that was just the lack of forethought. There was really a bit of desperation coming out from the LGD squad. You could see they didn't really have that much damage. The only way they were going to win against BLG was if they could catch them into a very full-on engage at an objective like a dragon or something, and if BLG continued to go in after losing members. But however, BLG, props to them. They like to play slow. They know they can take a step back and just wait for that late game team fight. And they also understood that when LGD was weak, they could go in and punish them. That's what they did at their Baron pit, and it was a very clean game.
We kind of pointed out during a draft phase that it could be LGD trying to tear apart the Xayah Rakan bottom lane, bait out the Zoe pick, and use Ryze into it. However, that was not the case. Zoe came online later into the match, and Athena picked up an MVP performance today as well.
I really think that this draft screams to me that they're worried about PYL's picks because they're taking him so far in the match, and it doesn't really make sense some of the time. But we have to go back to the man of the match right here. Athena, 43% of his team's damage. You know, he didn't really get a lot of things going early on, but later in the game, that key poke in the Baron pit onto the Ryze really kind of cemented the lead over LGD.
And with that it's BLG that are able to pick up the 2-0 victory over LGD at LGD's home arena in Hangzhou. And with that, propelling themselves further up in the standings. LGD, as you know, FLICKR and Adon were mentioning, they've been looking good so far in the LPL, but just not quite. Now they're sitting second from the bottom behind RNG, still have a game in hand. Whereas for the side of BLG, propelling themselves up to second place, 6-3.
And this is really interesting because they have yet to play the teams like RNG and IG, teams that have very, very strong laners. BLG, typically in the Western Conference, they lose their lanes and it doesn't go very well for them after that. Against EDG, they kind of just fell behind, never got back up again. Snake, kind of the same story. Today, even though they got a win against LGD, you have to look at their lane patterns, and they actually came out fairly well in terms of the laning phase. So even though there's a big win for BLG today, I don't think they've really cemented their placing as a top team. They still need to go through strong laning teams from the Eastern Conference.
We get 2 Western Conference wins today. Here come the upset in the first match where FunPlus Phoenix were able to pick up the win, followed by Bilibili Gaming who picked up the win over LGD, which brings us into tomorrow's matches, the final day for week number 4 of the LPL.
What a day we have.
The second match already is a fantastic one. RNG against Team WE. These are the 2 world semi-finalists and the match of the week on tomorrow in the final day of week 4. On top of that, we have currently the top of the East Conference as well as the top of the West Conference going to duke it out in the first game of the day. It's going to be Invictus Gaming taking on Snake.
I don't know how they did the schedules, but this day was, it was like born to be. It was destiny. Basically, all of the best teams coming together. And tomorrow, talking about RNG versus W, our game of the week, we might have Uzi coming back. They've already posted on Weibo that they will have his triumphant return. The Crownless King comes back, giving focus to his teammates. Now, it's not 100% certain that he will play. Teams can kind of trick you with this, but you know, there is a lot of hype in the building.
And they need him to come back almost. RNG is still sitting 3rd from the bottom in their conference after the loss we see from LGD today. They need to start picking up these wins, and what a better way to do it than against the other semi-finals representative from China, which is going to be Team WE. However, IG against Snake. This is going to be a big, heavy-hitting match. These 2 teams have only dropped a single series so far in the LPL.
Yeah, and this game is all about the top lane and the laners. We've seen in the Demacia Cup, Snake able to best Invictus Gaming twice in a row. That top lane, Flandre and the Shy, the 2 best top laners in the LPL currently, going head-to-head, and also the jungle. Sofam has just been killing it with his pathing so far, really revolutionizing a lot of the pathings here, a lot of jungles, giving him really, really great praise. So that's going to be a very hype matchup.
It's going to be a big heavy-hitting match to kick the day off, as well as 2 legendary teams, WE as well as RNG, facing off in the second match of the day tomorrow. That's going to start at 5 PM Shanghai time. But that's the entire broadcast for today. Thank you guys so much at home for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.